One powerful piece of Story Supply as a messaging framework and learning about how to talk about what you do is that this becomes your inspiration for all types of content that you can create. So we're going to talk about how to plan your content inspired by Story Supply. One of the most important topics to cover are problems and pains, frustrations that your customers have that you are looking to help them solve. And so you can do that with Story Supply as you consider and list out what are all those pains, what are all those problems, what are all of those current stories your customers have that are false, those objections that are false, the things that are keeping them from being successful. You can list those out in one column, and then the opposite of that. Well, what's that new belief? What's the opposite of that objection? What is that solution they must find that will help them be successful? And then what story can you tell that relates to that transformation of belief that will help them be successful? And then naturally connect that to an offer you have in your business. When I talk about content planning, I'm talking about all different types of content, not just video. So podcasts, design, posts, blogs, the list goes on. In this too, you also consider SEO, keywords, link building, so that way it's more searchable. So it is inspired by Story Supply. You will find a lot of inspiration of what you've documented in the notes you've taken to help you in your content planning. So that way you're never at a loss as to what to actually talk about in the content you put out in your ads on social media and beyond. So let's dive deeper into how to plan out your content using Story Supply.
This is just something as simple as a Google Sheet. And here on the bottom, you see there's a Story Supply tab and a Video Supply tab. In part one of Story Supply, we are going to talk just about the Story Supply tab. And the Video Supply tab is going to be relevant into more of the video strategy work we do in part two of a Video Supply. So in this section, taking from the Story Supply script and the other messaging and ideas and strategies that you've pulled from this whole section, I want you to think about that in mind as you approach this. And so the each column speaks to different kind of step of the journey that your client or customer goes through the content videos you'll create. So first off, when the whole idea of telling stories through video is to create new beliefs in people. A lot of times people have pains and emotions and often negative associations to either a certain product or service, something that keeps them from actually buying from what you offer, thinking that what you offer may not be the solution that they need, or that fact that they knew they actually needed a solution that you provided. And so whether you're speaking to the cold audience of yours, the warm or the hot audience, this is all relevant. And so false belief, that's the pain or problem or objection that they're experiencing that is stopping them from buying and finding the right solution for them. So what is that? List out all of it, just brainstorm, list out all the false beliefs that your customers have that keep them from buying. The pains, the problems, the solutions. Oftentimes the false belief of I don't have the time. That's a common one. And I would get more specific. You could have multiple time related ones. I don't have the time to take a course or to learn how to cook, whatever it may be specific to your industry. And so begin to brainstorm these out. Another one is think of it in the context of an internal belief. Did I spell that right? Internal belief, external, and something more resource-based, less human-based. So internal, this is always the hardest one to overcome for people because it's their inner voice. It's the feelings of not being good enough, not feeling like they have what it takes. So I'm sure you can relate to this. There was a time before you even created the products you have to solve your own problems or customers' problems that you had to create this internal belief that you had what it takes. You can remove that imposter syndrome. So internal false belief, I just mentioned one, can come in the form of imposter syndrome or if I can spell it right, syndrome. Another one could be the fear of judgment, coming from oneself and even from others. And then external false beliefs can be coming from other people. Um, and so we can say like external false belief could be coming from like family, friends, coworkers, someone else is holding us back. That's beyond ourselves. And then resources are the tools. So maybe it's literally equipment or technology. Maybe it's courses we've done in the past. So you could have a long list of very specific false beliefs that people have, like, oh, I don't have the right equipment. I believe falsely, and they don't know that, but I believe falsely that I don't have the right equipment. Well, in reality, like, hey, guess what? What's the opposite of this false belief? It's a new belief that I'm going to create for you. That new belief is you do have the right equipment, or maybe one where I don't have the time. You do have the time, um, because false beliefs to new beliefs, they're opposites, and we want to create the opposite effect for people. Kind of reverse what their thoughts are, what their beliefs are. And to do that, to create that emotional change for someone, is creating stories that connect to those beliefs. So having a story, and maybe the same story relates to multiple beliefs, but you just kind of reframe the story a little bit. And it could be your own story, personal story. Maybe it's a piece of your origin story or your origin story itself. Maybe it's a business story, or an everyday story of like your visit to the grocery store, but it has some kind of connection to these beliefs. Or maybe it's a customer story, a testimonial. Um, have a story that creates or that connects to these belief patterns over here. So you don't have the time. So the story is like, one of my stories is I moonlit my current business now while having a full-time job and a family. And I could have easily used the excuse that I don't have the time to build a side business. When all reality is, I made the time, but I initially believed I didn't have the time. And so the story that had to happen, and I can describe more, but maybe just put in a few notes here, is the time spent to build my business while still having a full-time job. So moonlighting experience. And then a hook. So there's multiple hooks for each story. Why should your customers care about creating this new belief? So a hook comes, and especially as you think of this in the context of a video, the hook comes in the first few moments, first few seconds to 10 seconds. Really not anything longer than that. You want to hook their attention as it relates to the story and the belief patterns. So the hook, we can be like, usually in a form of a question, is pretty powerful. And you got to think of it in the context of your customers. So asking, have you ever felt like you don't have the time to take a course or time to build the business of your dreams? So just ideas at the top of my head. Because what you're doing is you're getting your customers, the viewers, to self-identify, because in their mind, they're raising their hand and they're really like, yes, I have felt like they don't have the time. Tell me more. And then that's when you get into the story and quickly the false belief, like, oh, well, I've also thought that same thing, or I had a customer think that same thing. And then you describe the story. And then through the story and the emotional connection and the emotions you actually describe in that story, you're beginning to create this new belief that they also have what it takes. And then the cool thing about this too is, let's move these down here. Let's say we copy over this story with the same beliefs you got to create. And let's add a copy and paste here, but you have different hooks you create. So let's create a new hook. Versus asking a question, maybe you're going to do a visual that you're going to show. So like we'll say visual of stressed out worker, or a graphic that says don't have the time for your dreams. And so this is vague as far as getting specific to what offer we're actually speaking to. So that's why we need to connect this to an offer. So we want to assign a relevant offer, and this offer could be something as simple as a lead magnet, or something like a webinar, a free training. Maybe it's actually the course sales page, putting a link and a clear offer here. And then also, any offer, but making sure it connects. So the offer, like we'll say offer one here, it's gonna be the same offer here. And the reason why we'll have multiple of these, right, is because we're having multiple hooks to do. And then this becomes basically your script or messaging for your videos, because the whole intent of marketing is to create new belief patterns, positive belief patterns, so that way people can believe what you offer is the solution to what they need. And so document these out. Don't feel like you have to stop at 30, or don't feel like you have to start doing 30 to begin with. But once you get going, I guarantee that you can definitely identify plenty of false beliefs and objections and pain points that are holding people back from wanting to buy what you offer. So lean into this guide, make a copy of it for yourself, and have at it. The next steps after this is, after you document a lot of these pieces for creating new beliefs, is you're going to copy these numbers over into the video supply tab here under these numbers, and don't copy and paste every single piece. I was just copy and paste the story title, or a title we can connect to it. So anyways, the same number, put it here. And then this is the rest of the video planning we'll be doing in the future with you during the video strategy module. So that's an introduction and an overview on how to operate within the story supply area of the content planning guide. And one of the final pieces after you've developed and create alignment to your brand story, your mission, and your movement, so that way you can show up and actually have belief patterns and stories to share that are aligned to the offers that you have, or the offer that you have, and then the content that you'll eventually make out of that. So thanks for watching. Let me know of any questions you do have, and also share the progress you're making on your content planning guide as it relates to story, supply, and beyond.